What is your best parenting advice as obviously dad and
Yeah.
stepmom
And
and
soon to be
soon to be mom of a very
mama.
well endowed young man?
Well endowed.
Umbilical cord.
I saw
He'll
the
probably
image. I
be
was
well
like,
endowed.
damn, dude.
He'll probably
Very
be well
impressive.
endowed anyways.
um,
But that was his umbilical cord.
I'm not going to
I
argue with
think you're
her.
mistaken.
I asked a doctor actually recently.
Yeah?
Yeah. I was like, is this an umbilical cord or is
We
this
could
his little
take that
wee-wee?
image and throw it up there for people to judge themselves.
Yeah, we could. He's super cute.
That'd be kind of funny. We could throw it up there. What do you think? Text me a high resolution version of it, and we'll let the audience decide.
Let the audience decide, is it umbilical cord or
They can
wee-wee?
they can vote. We could have a vote.
It's funny.
Honestly, though, the parenting advice, the best thing that I could ever share with someone is never communicate with your kids when you're emotionally charged.
Meaning,
If you're angry.
If you're angry and you're
frustrated.
communicating with your spouse, you're telling them you don't have your act together and don't trust you. So why would it be any different for kids? Women are amazingly emotionally intelligent. Kids are the same. Just because they might not be listening to you doesn't mean that they're not emotionally intelligent. They're just testing the boundaries because that's what kids do. And if you communicate with your kids when you're angry, they learn to be afraid of you. That's different than having them do the right thing for the right reasons, if that makes sense. So if you communicate with your kids and yell at your kids and you're emotionally charged, they don't feel safe, they don't trust you, and it's going to lead to other issues. So anytime I want to get my kids to do something and they're not listening, I just have a sit down with them and just, eye to eye and just say, hey, this is what's going on. And I communicate with them, I talk with them, and they do it. But I've noticed that if I'm pissed about something and I communicate with them, it's not well received. They might do what I ask them to do, but when I go to work with them, their nerve systems are jacked up. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of tension on them. So they're doing it out of fear. And you don't want to communicate out of fear. It just doesn't work, nor do you want your kids in fear.
yeah, because then they start doing things reactively, or they feel like they're going to be judged, and then they stop communicating and telling you things. Because we had this conversation with Jen and Gracie when she was here, because Jen was all the kids in the neighborhood would come to their place because it was a safe house, and they could be themselves. And if somebody had drank too much or whatever, they had a bed to sleep at instead of hopping in their car and trying to drive home or stupid things like that. And a lot of parents are like that. They're angry with their children and they try to force them to live a certain way. And then what happens is it creates a barrier. Then the parents don't know the kids. They don't know what the kids are doing because they're going to go do it anyways. So they're either going to learn about drinking and drugs and sex from you as a parent, or they're going to learn it from the streets and the people that they hang out with. And so, like her, and then also an old girlfriend of mine, her dad was he was a state trooper. And I remember one night because we were talking about this in the video that we did with Jennifer and Gracie, which will be coming out. And there was one of the neighbors came and knocked on his door and said, "Your kids are," they were all teenagers in high school. "Your kids are down at the end of the street. They got a big fire going, and they're all drinking beers." And
So
he's like, "It's 10 o'clock, and I know where all my kids are. What about you? Where are your kids at right now?" She didn't know. That shut her up pretty quickly. But he created a safe environment where their teenage kids could go and have fun with their friends. It was a safe environment. They could check in, the parents would check in on them occasionally versus them trying to hide the fact that they're drinking from the parents and then getting in a car and something happening and the kid gets killed or in a bad accident, and then the parents are like, "I didn't even know my child drank."
and that gets back to communicating with your kids as though you respect them and you want to be respected back, because Jennifer obviously has a good rapport with her kids.
Yep.
They feel comfortable that they can communicate with her and that she's not going to freak out or get angry, but instead they can have a discussion about it. And as a result of having that great relationship and that open communication, she communicates with her kids in a respectful way, so they do respectful things. They respect themselves. Yeah, I mean, that makes total sense. I mean, I don't spank my kids. I've never spanked them. I don't think that's ideal. I think you're teaching them violence. and you're trying to motivate them through fear. So that's not the path I've taken. We'll see what happens in time. You know, my kids are 6 and 9,
They're
but
pretty well behaved.
they're very well behaved and they're really good kids. They're total sweethearts. And I've noticed in the office, you know, doing the work that we do, the network care, we assess when a client comes in of any age, whether they're older or kids or minors, what's the state of their physiology? Is their body in a fear state? Is their nerve system jacked up? Is their physiology stressed? And it's interesting that kids that grow up in a household where the kids are more stressed, it's typically because anger is what's communicated in the house oftentimes. And there's a correlation between that and learning challenges. So if the kid grows up in an environment where there's a lot of rage and a lot of anger, then you're going to see kids that have dyslexia, they have information processing disorders. So it's not ideal. So best parenting advice, communicate with your kids as if you want them to respect you, and they will, as though you respect them. And it's amazing that how they step up to the plate. So with the parenting advice, I've noticed that when Ashley is communicating with the kids, if she's emotionally charged about something, it's like the kids are kind of checked out and not being fully present, and sometimes won't do what she's asking them to do. But when Ashley's calm, cool, collected, and she just says, "Hey, this is what needs to happen, and this is what's expected," but she's coming across from a peaceful place, the kids are totally present with her, and more times than not, they'll do what she asks them to do, much more than if she's emotionally charged. Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so best parenting advice, be cool. And if you're triggered, that's not the best time to communicate with your kids. But instead, check in, maybe do the stage 2 consciousness exercise, which dissolves those triggers, so you can be cool, and your kids will be much more likely to follow through with what you're sharing with them. That's from my experience.
What else?
Cool kids come from cool parents.
Or cool, calm kids come from cool, calm parents. Because they're going to emulate your example.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
What do you got, Ash Monster?
Well, mine's pretty much the same. And really just having conversations with them, talking. I've done this because when I was a dancer growing up, I was looked up to as one of the older girls. And the younger girls just loved me because I didn't treat them like they were inferior or younger or didn't understand something. I just treated them like a human. And so, like, same with kids, like, just have conversations with them. They're pretty much little adults and we're pretty much big children, so they have a lot to teach us as well. So chat with them, listen to them.
Be cool with your kids. And then oftentimes how you communicate with your kids is what they're going to reproduce when they're in relationship. So, I mean, what do you want your kids to be like? What do you want your grandkids to be like? So don't be emotionally charged with them. Be cool with your kids. And yeah, they show up accordingly. I would say that's probably one of the best things I could ever share with someone.
Cool.
Now, when my kids get older and they're driving and they're having relationship stuff and we're butting heads, I might think, hey, I should have beat them when I had the chance. But for now, no. No, definitely being cool with your kids is the way to go.
If you have a good relationship and they respect you, like my old girlfriend who had the daughter who was real little, who's all grown up.
Yeah, how old was she when you were
5.5, and she's 26 now. She's had a baby. And I remember her mother was like, yeah, I hadn't spanked her since she was like 3 years old. Very well behaved, very respectful, very sweet. She's well, she respected you because we had a good relationship, actual conversations with each other. We took the time to understand where she was coming from and listen to her instead of barking at her like a dog and just saying, do this because I said so, which was how my parents raised me. You beat the crap out of us or yelled at us or told us just to do what they said just because they were the adults and we were the kids. And so it creates the environment where you just want to avoid your parents. And you don't want to tell them what you're doing, what you're up to, who you're hanging out with.
And your parents probably reproduced what was done to them.
Yep.
So at what point does someone break the cycle and say, hey, gee, I wonder what would happen if I treat my kids as though they're actually emotionally intelligent beings, and if I just have a heart-to-heart with them, maybe that would be more influential.
Yeah, my dad, I remember him seeing a lot when I was younger as he's beating the crap out of me. He used to go, when I was your age, my dad used to bounce me off the walls. And I was thinking, what the hell do you think you're doing to me right now? And he didn't see it that way. And when I've had conversations about it in recent years, he doesn't remember any of that. He doesn't remember his dad kicking his ass. He doesn't remember doing that to me. He's just
blocked it out, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. Or he was just too drunk to remember because he was always drinking every night. He always had pounding 5, 6, 7, 8 beers, whatever it was. And he was really stressed and irritable, and I just avoided him. So as I got older, especially in my early 20s, I really didn't have a relationship with my parents. I just wanted to get the fuck out of there and get away from them. And it was funny because he used to tell me the same thing. He couldn't wait till he was 18 to get out of the house and get away from his parents. And his mother was mad that he moved out because she was like, oh, when he says he was moving out and getting his own place, she's like, oh, I was expecting you to start paying me $500 a month for rent. He's like, I'm not going to sit around here and hang out with that.
And then pay
but
for
they
it.
reproduced the environment where both of my brother and I didn't want anything to do with my parents in my early 20s. I just wanted to get the hell away from them because I had made new friends, and I had friends that came from families where they were healthy and not fucked up and dysfunctional. And I had realized that my family were a mess. So I enjoyed I had a better relationship with my friends' parents, a lot of them, than I have with my own parents. Just because I wanted to avoid them because you never knew how my dad was going to react. If he was in a crappy mood, he'd find a reason to get pissed off.
Yeah, exactly. And
so I just avoided him.
And they project their frustration onto the kids. I really don't think that's what kids are here for. Be cool with kids, and they respond accordingly. It's actually amazing. The more calm, the more peaceful I am with my kids when I'm communicating with them, the more they follow through with whatever it is I'm trying to motivate them to do.